tranquillamente.
You know, deep breath, big picture. This is a huge and significant assault on Iran.
It is, and I think most of us were expecting that the talks have been going on. If you remember last year, I think there were 5 or 6 rounds of talks. They didn't go anywhere, and eventually Midnight Hammer. I think we've just done the 3rd round of talks. There was some, right, let's have a short, sharp shock, demonstrate that America is serious about this and carry on talking. One of the reasons why what's actually happened, which looks well beyond that, is very worrying, is we used to war game some of these options, and you'd always look at what's the most likely course of action and what's the most dangerous. The most dangerous for Iran is if they feel an existential threat to their existence and they press the button and throw everything at America. And Trump's words around this were not ambiguous at all. It was regime change. And the worry is that you talk about all those military bases, those countries. There's 1, maybe 2 missile systems, Patriot and THAAD, that can actually take out ballistic missiles. I'm afraid Iran has orders of magnitude more missiles than America has defensive missiles. So if Iran just keeps firing these things, they will get through. And you will remember, obviously, with giving some of these to Ukraine, there's also some of these deployed around the world, that there are limited supplies. You can't get down to Walmart and get them. So I think there's a real issue here about does Iran need an off-ramp to here? Or actually, maybe America needs an off-ramp to this. It's really worrying where we are.
That's interesting, given, I mean, despite that incredible build-up that we've seen over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. America is the military superpower here, but you look at the aircraft carriers, they're bristling with 5,000 people, nearly 100 military jets. But the number of weapons they can actually store, if you look at high-intensity operations, is actually relatively small. And it takes a while to get them all out from the continental US. So as a gesture and a posture, it's really powerful. If you're now into an enduring conflict, and unless you put boots on the ground, we haven't had a rich history of success of doing regime change. And if you do it simply using air and space power, I think it's been really interesting. So I do think President Trump's clearly decided he's going to threaten and expect Iran to capitulate. If they don't, where now?
Well, that's an interesting one, because presumably they're hoping that the 12-day war in June last year has crippled them to an extent to which would limit their capacity to respond. I mean, they're responding today clearly, but the hope is, I guess, that their ability to respond is limited.
It is, but there's lots of different options available to Iran, aren't there? And also, let's be quite clear, politically, they know that President Trump's facing midterm elections. They also know that President Trump wants to be, I've solved 8 wars, doesn't want to start one, doesn't want to get involved. So they know that he doesn't want to get involved. And Iran, frankly, is on the day 1 of this. They probably were expecting, they have their master target list and they're firing missiles. But don't forget, there's lots of things. The Straits of Hormuz, we've talked about potentially mining that. The terror groups that they sponsor terrorism around the world. Hamas probably padlocked in. But we are hearing reports in Israel that some of the Israeli forces are moving to the northern border because they're worried about what Hezbollah will do. The Houthis may well suddenly erupt up again. There's a drone ship which the Iranians have, which has been floating quite close to the aircraft carriers. It's no offence to the aircraft carriers, but if you put 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, 50 drones together at one of the carriers, it's got very good close-in defence, but you can eventually overwhelm it. Probably won't sink the carrier, but it isn't half dangerous for the Americans. So there's lots of other things that Iran can do. They've had lots of times to war game this as well over the last few decades. I'm sure they've got a few more tricks up their sleeve.
Right. John, I mean, it's clear that the Israelis certainly have been saying this, are targeting Khamenei and the president as well. Pezeshkian. What would be the significance of taking out Ayatollah Khamenei?
Well, they're not starting gradually. This is not an incremental operation, isn't it? They have gone straight for the leadership of the Iranian Republic. We know that this has been confirmed by an Israeli official. They have gone after the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, attacking his offices in central Tehran. They've gone after Masoud Pezeshkian, who's the head of the government. Officials in Iran have said that Pezeshkian is alive and well, and a source quoted about 90 minutes ago said that Khamenei was not in Tehran and had been transferred to a secure location. But look, one thing that we do know, and I think I should add that from our American partners, NBC, they say the Israelis have targeted, or they have the split in responsibilities. They are saying the Israelis are targeting Iranian leaders, the Americans targeting Iran's ballistic and nuclear programs. We know the Israelis have got good intelligence on the Iranians, on Iranian leaders. The Israelis, it seems, are going after the leadership. We know, Sky News has confirmed from the chief of staff of a former president, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. You may remember he was the president for 8 years, end of the 2000s, beginning of the 2010s. They've gone after his compound as well. He was a religious hardliner, a major backer of the nuclear program in Iran. His chief of staff says that Ahmadinejad has survived. We also know that senior figures in the Ministry of Defense have been. We can see, I think this is a video that has.
This is the Ahmadinejad.
Yeah, that has popped up. Yeah. We've confirmed this, that Ahmadinejad, his residence was attacked. You see, a large munition has caused that destruction. We also know senior members at the Ministry of Defense have been targeted. The Ministry of Justice has been targeted. State television, the IRIB, they've moved location in Tehran. Clearly, they want to stay on air. They are worrying about being taken off air. We understand that they are now telling people to leave major cities, for their own safety. But clearly, a preoccupation of the regime here is protests on the streets. And one of the things that we've seen this morning is people cheering as they see Israeli and American jets over the skies of Iran.
But just on that point that I mentioned earlier, the significance of taking out Khamenei. I mean, he is the decision maker in so many ways. Yeah. So what would taking him out mean, do you think? I mean, it wouldn't necessarily mean the end of the regime.
No, it doesn't. And I think there is a security state there of many hundreds of thousands of people. For example, in the Revolutionary Guard, there's the militia, the besieged militia. You've got more than 1 million men in the army as well. There's a huge security department of the Iranian state, and there will be people there who will be ready to step up. I think it's been instructive what we have seen over the last few months in Iran. Huge nationwide protests in that country, which the regime, when those protests got serious, when they started to threaten the existence of the regime, they crushed them. They put people on the streets, they put the militia, they put the Revolutionary Guards, they put them on the street, and they killed thousands and thousands of their own citizens. There's no limitation there shown. They killed thousands of their own people. And I think this is one of the big issues. Trump has framed this in the broadest possible terms. He's talking about regime change. Make no doubt about it. He's talking about regime change, but the methods here don't match the end goals. You're trying to achieve something through an aerial assault. Be very difficult to accomplish on the ground because of what we know the regime is prepared to do.
Earlier this morning, the United States and Israel struck targets in Iran. Iran has since launched indiscriminate strikes across the region. I know the British people and communities across our country will be deeply concerned about what this means for security and stability, and for the fate of innocent people across the region, which for so many of us includes friends and family members. So whilst the situation is evolving very quickly, I want to set out our response. The United Kingdom played no role in these strikes, but we have long been clear the regime in Iran is utterly abhorrent. They have murdered thousands of their own people, brutally crushed dissent, and sought to destabilise the region. Even in the United Kingdom, the Iranian regime poses a direct threat to dissidents and to the Jewish community. Over the last year alone, they have backed more than 20 potentially lethal attacks on UK soil. So it is clear they must never be allowed to develop a nuclear weapon. That remains the primary aim of the United Kingdom and our allies, including the US. I condemn Iran's attacks today on partners across the region, many of which are not parties to this conflict. We extend our support and solidarity to them as part of our commitments to the security of our allies in the Middle East. We have a range of defensive capabilities in the region, which we've recently strengthened. Our forces are active, and British planes are in the sky today as part of coordinated regional defensive operations to protect our people, our interests, and our allies, as Britain has done before, in line with international law. We've stepped up protections for British bases and personnel to their highest level. We are also reaching out to UK nationals in the region and doing everything we can to support them. I've been speaking with leaders today from the E3 and across the region. It is vital that we prevent further escalation and return to a diplomatic process. We want to see peace and security and the protection of civilian life. Iran can end now. They should refrain from further strikes, give up their weapons programs, and cease the appalling violence and repression against the Iranian people, who deserve the right to determine their own future, in line with our long-standing position. This is the route to de-escalation and back to the negotiating table. Thank you.
Raid sirens have just started again here in Jerusalem. We've been getting a series of alerts about incoming attacks coming into Israel across a huge expanse of this land, north, south, towards Tel Aviv. I've just had a message saying missiles reported on their way into the West Bank of Israel, which is, of course, occupied territory, Palestine, as seen by most governments. Now, what, about 25 minutes ago, we saw a series of intercepts in the sky above Jerusalem, booms. We just had a large boom coming from over in that direction, and these sirens suggest that they feel that there are missiles coming over in this direction. Now, generally, Iran would not be targeting Jerusalem for the reason that area over there, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, is one of the holiest sites in Islam. But there are missiles that will come over here. In fact, if you look there, that is the side of a missile intercept. So that is an Iranian missile that has been flown across here, probably towards a different target, but which has been intercepted by Israeli air defense. And that is what we are seeing in the skies above Jerusalem, are the booms of intercepts of missiles in this sky. The situation here, oh, that's another loud boom you're hearing there of a missile being intercepted here. The situation here, of course, has escalated very, very rapidly this morning from 8 o'clock to that's 3¼ hours ago when the first siren sounded. That was a preemptive siren to warn Israelis that military action was imminent and that they were likely to be asked to take shelter. And then just 3 hours later, we now know that Israel and the United States coordinated a military attack. There's another intercept that you just see there. You see that large puff of grey smoke? That is the scene of another interception. Very large boom we've just heard in the skies above us, above Jerusalem. And so this is the cacophony, and that's another trail there, and you can hear a jet flying overhead. It's a cloud cover over Jerusalem today. You see that large plume of smoke there from another interception. This is the soundtrack to Israel at the moment, and that's another element to it. Just that chiming sound you can hear is the alert that is now played out on mobile phones and devices across this country. That is a warning that is sent out on apps on people's phones and other devices, warning them of incoming missiles and telling them to take shelter. As you can see, my team and I are all in protective equipment. That's a very, very loud intercept there. That doesn't feel as if that one is too far away. These are some of the loudest booms and interceptions that we've heard so far this morning. And Israel is a tense country right now. In fact, I'm looking there. There is a plume of smoke that is just rising from a scene that is not far away from us at all. The smoke that you can see rising there, we don't know what has caused that, but that is a venue down there which is used as a concert venue over the course of summer here in the heart of Jerusalem, and there is now smoke pouring out from that. That is just in the shadow of the old city of Jerusalem. That is extraordinarily near to some of the holiest sites in Christianity and Islam. We'll find out what has happened there, but that is smoke pouring out from there, and that followed on, as you heard, from the sound of intercepts here in the skies above Jerusalem. Well, you'll be well aware that that is an air raid siren that is being activated once again. So we're looking around us all the time to see what is happening in these skies. Let me tell you that also Israeli military have sent forces up to the border with Lebanon to preempt Hezbollah potentially joining this attack. They put forces in Syria as well, and clearly, as we know, what has preempted all of this is a coordinated attack by Israeli and American forces on Iran. Iran always said that it would respond. It said that it would that there would be a regional conflict if it were attacked. And we are receiving reports of attacks not just on Israel, but also reports of in Bahrain, the UAE and other places in the region. So at the moment, this feels as if things are escalating extremely quickly. There's still traffic moving on the roads along there. I don't see any emergency response yet to that, but we can certainly also hear we can hear the alerts going off on phones as we speak. More thuds in the distance, more sounds of intercepts in the skies above us. Maybe you can hear those thuds beyond the cloud cover. At the moment, because the clouds are relatively low, you can't necessarily see those interceptions. What you then see is sometimes the smoke after them.
Michael, I'm interested to get your take on the justifications for this put forward by Donald Trump. and to a certain extent Benjamin Netanyahu as well. We heard from Donald Trump, didn't we, this sense of the American people being under threat. He said that he was doing it to protect America. He talked about Iran being the #1 state sponsor in the world and said that Iran has continued to develop its nuclear program and plans to develop missiles that can reach the US. What do you make of that? And you were talking earlier about the legality of a strike like this. Do you think that justification leans into that?
Yes, he was obviously trying to do that. It was an astonishing statement. Actually, as I was watching it with you, I was thinking, is this a deep fake? Could this be an AI deep fake? Because it was a really astonishing statement. I mean, and he laid out some of the history of it. He talked about the hostage crisis of 1979 that Jimmy Carter had to deal with, and then the attack on Beirut in 1983 that was in the Ronald Reagan presidency, and then he talked about the attack on the USS Cole in the year 2000, and then on attacks in American forces in Iraq, and then all of the more recent stuff. And he had a whole line of things, and then he went off script a bit and said that they can't be allowed to do this, and we just can't stand for it. We're not going to stand. There's a degree of personal exasperation, which is obviously not on his auto cue at that particular moment. But I mean, it was a terrifically important statement because, you know, in the last week or two, critics in America have said that this is a war in search of a strategy. You know, the Americans are building up for some sort of war, but they don't know why. And in a way, Donald Trump provided the answer, which is that he's going for broke. What does he want to achieve? So he says that the Iranians cannot have nuclear weapons, full stop, right? And then he says that we're going to raise their ballistic missile capability. They can't have missiles either. And then he said that the members of the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, have got to lay down their arms or die. Well, there's 220,000 of them. And if we're talking about those who are concerned with the regime, there's also 650,000 of the Bajij, who are the militia who work with the IRGC right down to levels. So he said those people have got to lay down their arms and die. And then he turned his attention to the brave population of Iran, saying, this is your moment, this is your moment, come out onto the streets, you won't get another chance. So he's going for broke. And he didn't say, as Deborah said, he didn't say the word regime change, but that's what he means. And so here we are. He's absolutely decided that the United States with Israel is going to take down the mullahs of Tehran. And this is interesting. I mean, let's be aware of the date. This is the 28th of February. The 28th of February last year was the day on which President Trump and J.D. Vance beat up Zelensky in the White House, in the Oval Office, that famous interview, which was absolutely appalling to most people around the world. Last year, on this day, the United States effectively seemed to change sides in the war in Ukraine. And this year, on the 28th of February, he's gone to war. He's actually gone to war. This is not some sort of enforcement action in the Caribbean against alleged narcotics boats. This is not attacks on the shadow fleet, Russia's shadow fleet getting getting oil out of Venezuela. This is not the attack on Maduro in Venezuela. This is not the bombing of Nigeria over Christmas in favor of Christian communities, allegedly, in Nigeria. This is not just military action. Today, Donald Trump has gone to war. It's a big day.
It is indeed a big day, and so many questions about what could happen next. On this sense that he wants the regime to fall, how difficult would that be?
Well, we'll see. I mean, the regime is in deep trouble, and people have been saying to Trump now for months, you know, the Iranian regime is the weakest it has ever been. This is the moment to topple it. And if you miss this opportunity, you're not true to your MAGA base. If you miss the opportunity to get rid of this malign anti-American influence across the region, then history won't forgive you. That's what he's being told. But equally, of course, another part of his MAGA base says, don't get involved in forever wars. And there is a sense in which analysts would say every president in the last 30 years has said, I want to get out of the Middle East. You know, we have nothing to gain from being involved in the Middle East in a deep way. Every president has said that. I mean, Bush said it. Obama definitely said it. Clinton said it. Everybody tries to actually do a deal and then get out of the Middle East. And none of them have succeeded. And here is Donald Trump saying that I will fix things in the Middle East, we'll fix things with Israel, we'll produce peace in Gaza, and we'll deal with the Iranian regime. And undoubtedly, we will then be able to concentrate on the Western Hemisphere, which is the Americas, as foreshadowed in the National Security Strategy Statement of the 25th of November last year. So, yes, we'll do this and then we'll get out. Well, it'll be a neat trick if you can do it, Mr. President, because actually you're getting even further in. Now, that's not to say that this won't work. I mean, America's military power is overwhelming. The Iranian regime is very weak. But whether the people of Iran will come out onto the streets, I think, is somewhat doubtful. The idea, he said, look after yourselves, but come and take the opportunity. I'm not quite sure how they can do that, because undoubtedly, with the Americans now making war on Iran, the IRGC and the Bajis, the militia, if they're out on the streets, they'll just shoot anyone they see. They will be able to claim that anyone involved in a demonstration, anyone advancing on a government building, is obviously working for the Americans. They'll just shoot them. It would be very unwise, I would have thought, for any Iranians to come out. I think the whole country will hunker down for some considerable number of days to see what happens next. And the point is that going after the Iranian nuclear capabilities and their military is, in a sense, is not likely to help the protesters. They've got to see what happens to the government in Tehran, and whether taking down those military facilities will actually bring the government down is rather doubtful, because the opposition will stay low. They've got to. I'll be interested to hear what Reza Pahlavi said. I mean, he is the pretender to the throne, the son of the Shah of Iran. He's in the United States. He's repeatedly called for demonstrators to come out. He said, I'm here, I'm ready to come back and, run a new government, run a transitional government for you. Interesting to hear what he says, because if he tries to call people out onto the streets, he may be calling them out to their deaths.
Viens,